Alright, so, who can tell me, please, what number I can multiply by itself that gives me a negative 1?
Negative 1.
Let's think about that. What's negative 1 times negative 1?
1.
Positive 1.
So the negative 1 times 1.
Okay, negative 1 times 1 makes negative 1. You're right. However, that's not a number by itself. That's two different numbers. So what number can I multiply by itself that gives me negative 1?
None.
None is the correct answer. There are no real numbers that you can multiply by itself that gives you a negative. If it's a negative times a negative, it's a positive. If it's a positive times a positive, it's a positive. So this is not real, okay? However, there's a whole branch of mathematics that deals with those types of numbers. They're not real numbers. They're called complex numbers, and they deal with the imaginary unit. The imaginary unit is the square root of negative 1. If we're going to study a tiny, tiny portion of imaginary numbers in this course, probably from now until Christmas, okay? And then that's it for this Algebra 2 course. But if you go on to study higher level math, you can take entire college courses about imaginary numbers, right? The study of imaginary numbers can be used to model stuff that happens at the molecular level, tiny, tiny microscopic phenomena in physics, as well as with electricity, okay? Like I said, in Algebra 2, we're only going to study a little bit of this. So I'm putting this slide on only for the people who are watching the video, because they are going to pause the screen right now and write all of that down. Period 6 are here. Okay? You don't have to write down this. Students will be able to just write down the problem. We're going to solve this together. So we're using the square root method to solve this, which is the exact same thing we've been doing for a week now, okay? So the method of solving this quadratic is not new. The only thing that's going to be new is that our solution is going to be imaginary, not real. What do I do to get x squared by itself?
Minus divide by 6.
Before I divide,
Minus 26.
minus 26.
Yeah, I know you got the rules. So you know. So,
Yes.
the left and over. All right.
All right, now what?
Divide by 2.
Divide by 2.
Over x squared equals negative 6.
No.
That's the.
Now what?
18. Oh,
What?
Nothing. I thought you didn't find the answer.
Now what?
So you do square root?
Yeah.
Square root.
Yeah.
Not.
And of course, you know that when I do that, I do plus and minus.
Yeah.
So right now I have x equals plus and minus square root of negative 18. So here I've got a negative underneath the radical. And as we've discussed, there are no two numbers, or there is no one number that you can multiply by itself that's going to give you that negative 18. What we have to do right now is we have to learn how to express the complex solution. Okay, that means it has an imaginary part to it. Okay, so here's how we do this. We are going to rewrite this as the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 18.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
You with me so far?
I think so.
What factors of 18 are a perfect square?
9.
9, very nice. So now I'm going to rewrite that as square root of negative 1 times square root of 9 times square root of 2.
Oh my gosh.
I know, I'm blowing your mind, right? Alright, so now on the first page, when we were doing the definitions, I told you that the square root of negative 1 is expressed as I. So I'm going to change that to an I. What's the square root of 9?
3.
Radical 2 can't be simplified. I bring down radical 2.
So that's plus negative I, right?
Mhm. Only one little thing left when I multiply I times 3. Let's just say it was x, okay, instead of I. If I have x times 3, I usually say 3x, right? So the same thing goes for this. You usually just want to put that number first, then the variable, then the square root. So that's considered the answer, the standard form of that complex number.
You're telling me.
So you're telling me.
That's an answer.
Next problem.
Okay.
This problem is much, much easier.
Definitely. X is equal to 3. Square root of 3. Plus or minus 3. Plus or minus negative 3.
You're wrong.
Plus or minus 3.
You're
I don't know.
wrong.
All right.
Why?
This problem is much, much easier, but I'm going to do this problem to show you that some shortcuts that we can take. So we're taking the square root of both sides, right? Yep. So this gives me x equals plus and minus. Now, instead of me breaking this down into 3 different steps, I'm going to combine like 3 steps right now, okay? If there's a negative under the radical, we're going to pull out an I, okay?
Yeah.
What's the square root of 9?
3.
3. So I'm going to do 3i. Okay? So I just did this. Instead of writing the square root of negative 1 and then changing that to an I, and then writing this 3 and then switching the order, you don't have to do all of that. For the very first problem, I did it in tiny, tiny little baby steps because I wanted you to understand what was going on. But it's purely okay to be able to do that all in one step. All right? Shall I walk you through this?
No, good.
You think you can do this?
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right, why don't you give it a try, and I'll catch up with you in just a second.
Catch up
Or like you can't catch.
That's hilarious.
Is it really though?
Why don't you stay with him? I love you, so stay with him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Much love.
Just basically just call me.
Step 1. What's step 1?
Subtract 35.
Oh my gosh.
So now it's negative 16.
Now what?
Divided by
By 2, it will be 8.
Now what?
Yo, chill out, yeah.
Now what?
Just so you don't like tropical food,
Okay, good. So I have an I, right? And then I've got the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. I was going to ask you what factors made our perfect square, but Jeremy was already answering before I asked.
Yeah.
So 4 is the perfect square. So I wrote that square root of 4 times square root of 2. What is square root of 4?
Sounds very
2, so this is 2i radical 2. How did I do?
Please don't
You're pretty nice.
Don't change the slide. Don't change the slide.
Yeah, please don't. What was it answering as well?
It's so funny.
I would leave the classroom.
Just walk out. Just don't be so fake.
Yep, sorry.
I'm out now. That's obviously what's his name? I forgot his name. Terrence.
Ready?
Good job, Doc. Wait, no, that's.
You try.
Huh?
No, you try.
You try.
Oh, it's a negative.
Oh no.
Shut up, Caleb.
Yo.
Wow, I'm stressed out. Oh, God.
Equals it'll be I. That's considered negative I square root of 4 times square root of 3, right?
What's this guy?
But that's not the final answer. You got one more
No,
step.
no. I'm just making sure the question is right.
Who wants to demonstrate this? You're being recorded before you volunteer. You're being recorded.
Oh my God, I'm gonna go to YouTube.
Do you have?
Aren't you famous?
Do you have my consent?
Huh?
Do you have my consent?
Only if I'm capturing your image, which I'm not. I'm capturing only what you write on the board.
You need permission slip?
All right, I'll do it.
I would have tried it, but I'm not trying to be wrong.
What's wrong with being wrong?
It's going on YouTube.
You act-
71,000.
Wait, you act like people watch these videos.
So
They do. They have like
You act like people watch.
I think that Zach's grade just like plummeted.
Yeah, facts.
And
That's what you get used to.
Genius. Joke's on you. I watch every single one of them videos.
Shut up, Zach.
Did you watch like How
Joke's
to
on you. I
Basic?
have these videos on repeat.
Where he does like those little like that's it.
Joke's on you. I'm the only one that's actually subscribed.
Damn, I actually subscribe to her. I get extra credit.
How did I do?
I got up to the 12.
You know you're.
You got up to square root of negative 12.
Yeah, like I knew that it was
No,
4.
like,
I
she knows
didn't
she's
know what to
right.
do after. I knew it was
That's
4
what
and
you
3,
do.
but I didn't know what to do after.
You're a math
I
teacher.
messed up when
You know
I
you're
put
right.
Did you get an I?
Like, it's just to make us feel bad about us.
You need an I because the negative is under the radical.
Okay, so wait, you put the I before you do the rest of the thing?
Yeah.
So do you always do that or no?
Well, in your final answer, the I is going to come after the number. I don't know. You don't have to do it exactly that way. Order isn't really important. Just so long as you have it, your final answer in the right order.
I like how you're always being mean to her.
Okay.
I'm actually really nice.
All right, I'm going to put up some bookwork in just 1
I be
second.
going up to you like, ill. I didn't even be doing it. I don't know what she says.
Is it tomorrow?
But then
Yes,
over to your-
well, bookwork
See,
is
she's gonna be ugly.
due today, tomorrow. Yes.
Get over to your ill.
You're going to have plenty of time to do this bookwork right now in class.